I'm Bryant Gumbel. Tomorrow morning on Today, we'll talk presidential politics with Joe Kennedy.
I'm Jane Foley, also Ben Kingsley and Willie Nelson.
Join us tomorrow morning on Today.
There is good news to report tonight about those 3 whales trapped in the ice off Alaska. NBC's Don Oliver reports that they appear to be regaining their strength while they wait for help.
Biologists have been keeping an all-night vigil at the holes in the ice where the whales surface to breathe. They are timing the intervals the whales are underwater, hoping to determine how far these California gray whales might be able to swim without coming up for air.
These guys in a 5-minute dive probably can't go much more than a third of a mile or maybe half a mile at the most, I think.
Right now, the nearest open water is more than 5 miles away. Veterinarians examined the whales again this morning and determined that physically they appear the same as they did 3 days ago, but that their behavior is better. They are not nearly as sluggish. The feeling is they are strong enough to make the swim if the ice-breaking hovercraft arrives to clear a path. The hovercraft, as of midday, had not left Prudhoe Bay on what is expected to be at least a 40-hour trip. For the past couple of years during the spring thaw, the Eskimos here have found the carcasses of gray whales washed up on the beach. Obviously, the victims of the same problem that has befallen these 3 whales. The difference being there was no one around to help the dead whales out. Don Oliver, NBC News, Point Barrow, Alaska.
And in South America tonight, an environmental problem of a much greater magnitude, one that could kill the future. It involves the destruction of one of Earth's greatest natural resources, the Amazon rainforest. The Brazilian government has announced a plan to slow the destruction of that forest, but NBC's Ed Rabel reports the plan may be too little, too late to head off a worldwide disaster.
It seems innocent enough. A farmer burns some trees in the Amazon jungle to clear land for his crops. But if he and his neighbors don't stop this practice, and stop it soon, scientists say that within 60 years, the entire east coast of the United States could be flooded.
Coastal cities such as Charleston and Miami would find themselves all or partly underwater.
Last year alone, 77,000 square miles of forest were set afire, an area 1.5 times the size of New York State. Brazilian space scientist Dr. Alberto Setzer is pinpointing the fires in a new satellite monitoring program.
We can locate above 7,000 fires every day. We estimate that in '87, the forest burnings in the Amazon basin emitted something like 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide.
The theory is the added carbon dioxide will heat up the Earth's atmosphere so much that the polar ice caps could start melting. Within 60 years, analysts say, the oceans may rise by as much as 4 feet, with especially severe effects in these areas. Not only that,
In Iowa and the best grain-producing parts of the United States, the rain there will become less, the crop yields will go down, and the difference will be felt.
the richly diverse forest is a source of a lot of the oxygen we breathe. It is also home to 1/5 of the world's plant and animal species, which took millions of years to develop. Rainforest plants and animals provide fully 1/4 of all prescription drugs, everything from birth control pills to muscle relaxants. Most of the plants have yet to be tested for their medical value. We may never know what life-saving drugs we are being robbed of because of the destruction of the forests. But poor, landless men like João will tell you they have no choice. They either clear the forest to plant crops, or they starve, they say. They were forced into the Amazon because 80% of Brazil's good arable farmland is owned and controlled by a handful of landowners. Now, a new road, paid for in part by U.S. taxpayers, slices into one of the richest parts of the Amazon called Rondônia. 10,000 new settlers a month are invading the forest over the new road, part of the Brazilian government plan to develop the region.
From their point of view, it is a good idea on the short term to move people into Rondônia. But from the long-term perspective of Brazil, it is a disaster.
Brazil's President José Sarney has now said his government would stop the burning by ending tax incentives for cattle ranchers and farmers. But it's the poor landless squatters who are doing most of the burning, and no plan was announced to find land or jobs for them. The destruction continues.
If the current pace continues, the forest will be completely destroyed in 15 years from now.
The immediate reaction to this destruction is that nature always has a way of healing itself, that the forest will someday grow back as good as ever. Not true. The rainforest is unique in all the world, and once it is gone forever. The trees and vegetation will not grow back because the topsoil here is extremely thin and contains few nutrients. The loss is immeasurable. 50 million years of evolution going up in smoke. In the time you have been watching this story, 400 acres of the rainforest have disappeared. Ed Rabel, NBC News in the Brazilian rainforest. Do it again.
That's Nightly News for this Wednesday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.